Okay, good night of Shabbos. I want to welcome everyone to the Torah of Geography. Our learning is Lecher Nishmas, Hakadosh Hirsch ben Yonatan Shimshon, Uperel Chana, in memory of Hirsch Goldberg Poland, who was murdered al Kiddush Hashem a few months ago after almost a year of captivity in Gaza. And we hope that our learning should serve to perpetuate his memory in this world, as well as to keep his name alive as well. And again, anything that we share tonight, if you care to share it with anyone else over the course of Shabbos, or other ways to please mention Hirsch's name in connection to the Torah, which again focuses on the world of geography, maps, atlases, which were so stimulating to Hirsch during his short life. Parshat Vayeshev, particularly in proximity of Hanukkah, on the one hand, is a parsha where God does not speak. Right? God is really not a direct player in these parshas, the story of Yosef. At best, God is present, perhaps, and mysteriously through the world of dreams. Right? But God's voice is silent, and yet these are parshas that are very much about the notion of hashgacha, of divine providence. Right? The idea that in the unlikely events of Yosef's kidnapping, of his sale to Egypt, and all of the apparent misadventures that he engages on, all of this is Yad Hashem, is the hand of God, right, changing the direction of history. And Yosef, as much as says this in a few weeks, right, you didn't send me to Egypt, God sent me to Egypt. That this was an action in order for Yosef to begin to pave the way to the fulfillment of the bris with Absarim, the covenant with Avraham, that the family of Yaakov will find itself in Egypt in order to eventually meet its destiny. So one of the elements of reading these stories, right, is seeing how in the improbable events there is a divine guiding hand to what happens. So again, the story begins, right, that Yaakov Avinu, sends Yosef to go find his brothers where they are pasturing their sheep up in the environs of Shechem. So let's take a quick look at the map. Take this for a minute. Okay. So again, here we have the map of Eretz Yisrael, right? We are looking here is the Dead Sea, here's the Jordan River, right? Here are the mountains of Transjordan, right? What is Jordan today, right? And here is the city of Shechem, right? And here is the city of Hebron, right? Which is where Yaakov sends Yosef from. Now, it's quite a significant distance, right, down the spine of Eretz Yisrael to go from the area of Hebron, right, kind of the almost southern point. You see the mountains kind of divide over here, right, of the hilly spine of Eretz Yisrael all the way up to the area of Shechem, right? So the question is, what leads the brothers to move their sheep all the way up to the area of Shechem? Now, remember, right, that Shechem has a history, right? We read about it last week. This is the place where the brothers, certainly led by Shimon and Levi, engage in warfare, essentially wipe out the city of Shechem because of the incident with Dinah, right? So what brings them back to the area of Shechem in order to pasture their sheep? So the Malbim makes an interesting suggestion. The Malbim suggests that they come back to Shechem because they are trying to avoid the very situation that takes place. They are looking to get away from Yosef, right? Again, remember, until now, Yosef has expressed a number of dreams that are quite distasteful, to put it mildly, to the brothers. They had enough of Yosef, right? So they went up all the way to Shechem because they thought that that was a place that they would escape from Yosef. Why? Because Shechem was dangerous. Right? Remember the history of Shechem, that these were people who were, from the perspective of the surrounding areas, right? These were guilty of genocide in Shechem, right? So they concluded, as it were, erroneously, if we go up to Shechem, we're not going to be bothered. Yosef will not come here. Yaakov will certainly not send him to Shechem because it is, in fact, dangerous. Now, ironically enough, right, that may well be, this is what the Rashbam says, that may well be the reason that Yaakov, in fact, sends him. Why? And the Pasuk says, Halo achecha ravim b'Shechem, right? B'makom zakona shahargu anshe hamakom. Right, the Rashbam says in the name of Yosef Kara, right, who's another French Rishon of his time, he says that the reason why Yaakov was concerned, look, his brothers were grown men, right? Why is he so concerned to see how they were doing? Because they were in Shechem, right? So the Rashbam says, the Malbim says they went to Shechem to escape from Yosef, and the Rashbam says that's specifically the reason why Yaakov sent Yosef after them, because he was concerned what's going to be up in the area of Shechem. So again, here we see the Darchei Hashgacha, right, the paths of divine providence, right? Their plan, right, they were looking for a cooling off period to get away from Yosef. Instead, right, God wants this to take place. They go to Shechem, and that's what leads Yaakov to send Yosef in the first place. Now, Rabbi Yaakov Midan has a very interesting suggestion of why they wind up sending, going to Shechem in the first place. And his suggestion is that this is, as again we know from as the story goes, right, this is one of the many periodic periods of drought, right, that said, again, doesn't have to be the big famine, right, of later in Yosef's career, right, but famine is a constant concern. So he said he actually asked a Arab shepherd, right, of the area of Hebron, right, what do you do, right, when there is a time of drought, right, and when things are, it's in the vicinity of Hebron, right, that it's slim pickings for the sheep. So they told him, what do? We go up to Nablus, right? Nablus is Shechem, right? How did Shechem become Nablus, right? That the Greek name, right? A little Hanukkah for the moment, right? When this area became Hellenized, the Greek name for the city of Shechem was Neapolis, right? Which literally means new city, right? Neapolis, right? Neapolis becomes in Arabic Nablus, right? Again, Arabs don't generally articulate. There's no P sound in Arabic, right? So Neapolis becomes Nablus, right? But Nablus is Shechem. So the Arab shepherd today says when things get dried out in the Hebron, we go up north to the vicinity of Nablus of Shechem because it's usually better there. Again, this is farther north. It's a more verdant kind of climate. Right? Hebron area already is the edge of the desert, right? And that, again, it becomes slim pickings more easily. So Vidan posits that maybe that's why the brothers went up to Shechem, right? They went up to Shechem because that's where you go when things are bad. So how do we even have this idea, right? Where does he get this idea from? There might have been a drought. So this is based on a famous medrash which is quoted by Rashi, right? Remember, the Torah tells us, Habor rake, ein bo mayim, right? It says the pit was empty, there was no water there, right? So Rashi famously says, right, what does it mean there's no water? Don't you know that? It says the bore is empty. He says, Mayim ein bo chashima kravim yesh bo. There was no water, but the pit actually was infested with snakes and scorpions and things like that. So Rav Midan says this comment of the Torah, habor, right? A bore, right, is a pit designed for gathering water, right? Why is the pit not have water in it? So Rashi's suggestion is it must be this is a time of drought, right? Even when they go up north, they're still unable to find water. So again, that may be, right? Again, and that is, once again, a sensitivity to the geography, perhaps gives us a possibility of understanding why the brothers went up there. So that's as far as Shechem is concerned. Now, when Yosef gets up to Shechem, the Torah tells us that he runs into a person, right? The Medrash says the person is actually a malach, the angel Gabriel, And again, this is the idea that you would have thought at that point Yosef went to Shechem, he gave it the college try, he doesn't find them, he would have gone home. But there happens to be this person who knows where the brothers went, that they said that we're going up to the area of Dosan, right? And if not for this person, Yosef probably would have gone home with his father, said, "Look, I couldn't find them, Abba," right? That he redirects him to the area of Dosan, and that is where he is thrown into the pit, and that is where he was eventually sold as a slave, right? So again, Yad Hashem, right? A providential hand, right? That redirects Yosef into the path of destiny. But why is Dosan significant, right? In other words, it spends a fair amount of bandwidth. Shechem, and they're not in Shechem, he goes to Dosan. Why do we care? So let's go back to the map. And again, this is from Rabbi Yaakov Midan's Sefer Kikarov Lecha. He has 3 volumes out currently, Bereish Shmos and Bamidbar. This is from the original book on Bereshis. So again, if one looks at the map of Eretz Yisrael, right, the core of Eretz Yisrael, right, which again, ironically enough, is what is politically the most charged today, the area of Yehuda Shomron, right, is a area of hills, right? It was going all the way up, roughly from the area over here in the Shomron. It goes all the way down to the area of Hebron, right? You have the Shvela, you have the coastal plain, which again, even today, right, the climate is different, right? It's again, Eretz Yisrael is for a small piece of real estate, includes some really varied landscape and geography and so forth, right? And again, it's a little bit of a this road with something that's called the Derech Avot, right? The path of the forefathers, right? This is really a regional kind of area, right? In other words, you don't go through the mountains, right? This whole mountainous road unless you have to, right? This is not the way of international trade, right? The way that you go, again, is that there is what's called sometimes Derech Eretz Plishtim in the Torah, right? There is this highway, right, which runs along the coast, right? It's a much better way to go, right? That's how you get from Eretz Canaan down to Egypt, right? And then it cuts through over here where you have essentially kind of, you have a big valley here, what's called Emek Dosan, right? The valley of Dosan. There's actually a significant tank battle here during the 6-Day War, which is not surprising, right? Because tanks also don't want to be in mountains, right? They also are looking for, level ground. But this is if you had the caravans that are coming from the east, right? The big international trade, right, runs along this road, right? It cuts through the mountains over here from Transjordan, right? Goes through this relatively easy pass over here, right? And goes right before Dosa. Now, remember, if you go back to the Psukim, right, and the story of the sale of Yosef, the sale of Yosef itself is almost accidental, right? They're sitting there, Yosef is in the pit, they're trying to decide what's going to happen, right? Reuven plans to return him from the pit back to their father, right? And suddenly Yehuda sees a caravan. Now, had they stayed in Shechem, right? And again, we don't know exactly what brought them to Dosan. It could be that Dosan, they were hoping, was even more fertile, right, than the area of Shechem, right? Maybe they're continuing to pursue the flocks, right? If they stayed in Shechem, they would never have seen a caravan going to Egypt. Caravans that are bound to Egypt don't travel on these roads, right? But caravans that are going to Egypt, Davka, pass through the area of Dosan, right? So from there, the brothers are sitting, Yehuda sees the caravan, and that split second where he views the caravan puts this idea in his head that improbably takes Yosef down to Egypt. And by the way, this may also explain why Yaakov never really, it never occurs to Yaakov to inquire in Egypt about Yosef's whereabouts, right? The idea that he assumes that the encounter happened in the area of Shechem, right? They're not on the international road, right? He doesn't know that this is a path where caravans going to Egypt, so it wouldn't have occurred in a million years, right? That this could be actually what transpired in this location, right? That the transition to Dosan is incredibly important because it makes all of this happen. And this once again goes back to this meta theme in the story of Yosef and his brothers, right? They don't understand what's happening, right? It seems to be coincidence, right? A historical accident that leads them to Shechem and from Shechem to Dosan and so forth. But all of these are the workings of a providence that is bringing together a much bigger, much more elaborate, much grander story that is going to culminate in Shibud Mitzrayim and the slavery in Egypt, but with the redemption, the giving the Torah, the forging of a nation that happens because it happened to be that the brothers made this fateful decision unbeknownst of the ramifications of being right next to the interstate in Dosan, right, which is going to change the course of Jewish history. A good Shabbos to all.